Imagine waking up one day to find out that something you believed your entire life, something taught in schools, printed in every science book, and ingrained in your understanding of the universe, was no longer true. That's exactly what happened in 2006 when the world was rocked by the news that Pluto, our beloved ninth planet, had been stripped of its planetary title. It wasn't just a technical update, it felt personal. How could a planet we had celebrated for decades suddenly not be a planet anymore? Was it downgraded? Kicked out? Forgotten by the universe? For many, this decision by astronomers raised more questions than it answered, leaving us scratching our heads about how we define existence itself. Here's where things get interesting. This is not just a story about changes in astronomy, it's a story about humanity's urge to label and control the cosmos. What really happened to Pluto? Did it lose a cosmic popularity contest, or did the rules we use to understand the universe shift beneath our feet? As we unravel the fascinating tale of Pluto's discovery, rise to planetary fame, and subsequent fall from grace, you'll discover that this story is much bigger than one icy rock. It's about challenging our perceptions and opening our minds to the unexpected. And maybe, just maybe, it's about us, too. But before we dive into where and why Pluto lost its title, let me ask you this: have you ever wondered if the rules we've been following, including how we think about the universe, could actually be holding us back? Stick with me, and you might just see things in a whole new light. Did you ever feel certain about something, only to have it flipped on its head overnight? Well, that's exactly how the astronomy world felt when Pluto was demoted from its planetary status in 2006. For decades, it basked in the glory of being the ninth planet in our solar system, the silent wanderer at the edge of our celestial neighborhood. But then, the International Astronomical Union, IAU, a group of, let's call them, space rulemakers, changed their definition of what it takes to be a planet. Suddenly, the universe we thought we understood got a little more complex. Pluto became, shall we say, the underdog of galaxias. And, let's be honest, who doesn't secretly love rooting for the underdog? The thing is, Pluto's story is not just about science, it's about how we define existence itself. Think about it: if something you thought you knew could change so dramatically, doesn't that shake your sense of stability? For astronomers, redefining Pluto wasn't just about drawing new lines on a chalkboard, it was about challenging humanity's relationship with the cosmos. It's like realizing that that favorite restaurant of yours down the street isn't really in your neighborhood but the next town over. Annoying? Sure. But it forces you to rethink your everyday perceptions. And let's be real, rethinking big things like planets and the universe itself brings a strange kind of thrill, doesn't it? This reclassification didn't mean Pluto disappeared, it wasn't banished into some void of irrelevance. Instead, its story opened a Pandora's box of questions about the universe and, ironically, gave it a new kind of fame. People who had never given a second thought to astronomy began heated debates over its status. And isn't it fascinating how something as distant as Pluto could spark such a close-to-home discussion about identity? But before we dive too deep into definitions and criteria, let's take a step back. How did this icy little rock even get noticed in the grand expanse of galaxias? Well, my friend, to understand that, we need to rewind time just a bit. The story of Pluto's discovery is like a tale plucked straight from the pages of a cosmic detective novel. It all started in the early 1900s when astronomers noticed something peculiar. The movements of Urano and Neptuno suggested the gravitational pull of an unknown celestial body. Enter Clyde Tombaugh, a young astronomer working at the Lowell Observatory in Arizona. With painstaking effort using photographic plates, basically the 1930s version of a high-tech telescope, Tombaugh spotted a faint speck moving through the night sky. That little speck was Pluto. Imagine the thrill of finding something so small but of such immense significance in the vastness of the universe. It must have felt like catching a single raindrop in a storm. When Pluto was first spotted in 1930, the world welcomed it with open arms as the 9th planet in our solar system. Back then, no one had the tools or knowledge we possess today to question its status. Pluto was seen as a mysterious outlier, tiny compared to giants like Jupiter, and positioned at the edge of our solar system, far beyond what most could comprehend at the time. But humans, as we often do, needed to categorize and simplify the universe, so Pluto was neatly placed into the planet box. People even romanticized it, giving it the name of the Roman god of the underworld, as if to emphasize its shadowy, distant place among the galaxias. But here's the twist. As technology advanced and astronomers peered deeper into space, they realized Pluto wasn't as unique as they initially thought. Its size, for example, was questionable. It was smaller not only than the other planets but even smaller than Earth's moon. Still, for decades, it clung to its planetary crown, loved perhaps more for its novelty than for its qualifications. And this raises a curious question, doesn't it? How do we decide what deserves recognition, whether in our solar system or in life itself? But let's not get ahead of ourselves. The next chapter of Pluto's story involves some serious rulemaking and redefining. And as you'll see, the universe doesn't play favorites. In 2006, everything we thought we knew about our solar system was flipped upside down at a meeting of astronomers you probably wouldn't call exciting, but it turned out to be exactly that. The International Astronomical Union, IAU, decided it was time to redefine what it means to be a planet, and boy, did they stir the pot. They laid out 3 key criteria. A planet needs to orbit a star, be massive enough to be rounded by its own gravity, and have cleared the neighborhood of its orbit. It was that last detail that knocked Pluto off its pedestal, because, let's face it, this little guy shares its orbital path with a bunch of other icy objects in the Kuiper belt. Technically, it just didn't make the cut. Harsh? Maybe. Necessary? Well, that's a debate for another day. But let's think about this for a moment. What does it mean to clear your neighborhood? In space terms, it means dominating an orbital zone by gravitationally influencing nearby bodies. Pluto, despite its charm, simply doesn't have the clout to do that. It's like trying to call the tiniest fish in the ocean a shark. It may swim, but it's not ruling its domain. And so, Pluto was reclassified as a dwarf planet. Interestingly enough, this wasn't the death of its story. Instead, it became a kind of rebirth. Suddenly, people were revisiting old astronomy notes, learning about the Kuiper belt, and, in their own way, rediscovering the universe. It's funny how what seems like a demotion can actually lead to a renaissance of curiosity. Of course, the reclassification didn't come without backlash. Science textbooks had to be rewritten, debates flared up online, and even petitions rolled in. Yes, people were so emotionally invested that they literally petitioned to take back the decision. And while this change felt like an identity crisis for Pluto, it also showed how deeply connected we all are to the stories of the universe. Beyond technicalities and classifications, isn't it amazing how even in its new status, Pluto still captivates humanity's imagination? But the story doesn't end here, far from it. What does its new status mean for astronomy, for how we categorize and understand celestial bodies? Stay with me, because the next part might be the most thought-provoking yet. Despite its formal demotion to the category of dwarf planet, the debate over Pluto's status remains alive and kicking to this day. Scientists, enthusiasts, and even casual stargazers continuously question whether the 2006 decision was the right move. After all, how do you strip something of an identity it held for decades, especially without sparking controversy? It's almost like telling someone their childhood hero was suddenly just an average Joe. Some astronomers argue that the IAU's criteria are too strict and don't account for the diversity of celestial bodies in the universe. And isn't the universe itself complex and full of exceptions? Maybe our rules are a bit too rigid for the job. In fact, in 2017, NASA scientists stirred new waves in the debate, suggesting a broader and more inclusive definition of a planet, one that would return Pluto to its former glory. According to this perspective, shouldn't any round object that orbits the Sun and shows enough unique characteristics qualify for the title? It's not just about Pluto, though, it's about reimagining how we see the cosmos as a whole. Think about it. What do we gain or lose by adjusting how we categorize the worlds that occupy our galaxies? By sticking to rigid definitions, are we potentially missing out on some of the magic that the universe has to offer? It's a question that has no easy answer, but it keeps our curiosity alive, and maybe that's the point. What's fascinating is how this ongoing debate reflects something very human. The struggle to label Pluto mirrors our need to label everything in life, our jobs, our relationships, even ourselves. But the universe doesn't need our labels, it simply exists, in all its vastness and mystery. Whether Pluto is a planet or a dwarf planet, its status doesn't change what it is, a distant, icy world, spinning at the edge of our solar system, reminding us of the boundless possibilities that lie beyond. So, maybe the question isn't just what is Pluto, but rather, what does its story teach us about our place in the cosmos? And perhaps that lesson is far more valuable than any label we could give it. So, what do you think? Has this journey through the story of Pluto shifted your perspective, even just a little? It's fascinating how one small change, like redefining the status of a planet, can spark such big questions about how we perceive the universe and even our own existence. If anything, Pluto's story reminds us that nothing in life, not even something as seemingly fixed as the solar system, is set in stone. This shift isn't just about space science, it's about the willingness to adapt, to question, and to embrace the unknown. And let's be honest, doesn't the universe feel a little more alive when we're still figuring it out? Before you walk away, I want to leave you with this challenge. What other Plutos are hiding in your own life? What have you always accepted as fact but could rethink, redefine, or even rediscover? The universe thrives on curiosity, and Pluto's story is a perfect reminder that what we know today might change tomorrow. So don't stop questioning, don't stop learning, and most importantly, don't stop looking up at the stars. Who knows? Maybe one day you'll be the one helping to redefine the boundaries of the cosmos. If you enjoyed diving into this topic, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you think Pluto deserves to be reinstated as a planet, or are you team dwarf planet? Let me know in the comments, your perspective might just spark the next big conversation. While you're at it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. There's a whole universe of topics still to explore, and you won't want to miss what's coming next.